Isabella is going on an expedition. Studying dragons is their main mission. But something is making the dragons attack, so Isabella and her friends better watch their backs. The boyar is trying to make them pack their wagons. Let's talk about a natural history of dragons.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Literarily Wasted. As you can see, it's me and Christy, and then we have two very special guest hosts. Hello, Dan and Kira.
Hello.
Hi, Lit Fam. That was a lot.
So, welcome to Literarily Wasted. Y'all have seen them. Y'all know who they are. They're everywhere. They're in the lounge. They're on Discord. They're right here. But first of all,
Sean.
Not literally,
Yeah.
not the way Lucas and Talia have been right here to your left.
Lucas is telling.
Sean said, "This is the first time I remembered to turn up the volume before the song. Have all the recent intros been built by AI?" Yes.
Kind of.
So Adam writes the lyrics for every one of them, and then he throws it through AI and gets them to songify it.
Songifies. The lyrics are written by me.
Yeah, he does all of them. It's amazing.
Speaking of lyrics, I guess I'll do the thing.
You go.
Hi. Well, everybody. Hi. Randa and Literally Wasted. And Christopher and Kristen and Stacy and Jennifer and Marianne. Hi. Lisa and Sean and Brandy and Katie and Jay. Hi, Carolyn. Hi. Kelly and Sever and Nicole and Judy and Cindy and Carrie and Alex. I should scroll down faster. And Deidre and Victoria and Carrie and Jeff and Katie and Jay and Lynn and Deidre and Alex and Sean and Ashley and Jeff and Tim and Ashley and Sean and Cindy. Boom.
Nice.
Nailed it.
It was a good try.
Next time it's you.
It's not.
Next time it's you.
It will not be.
Okay. Yes, it will.
No.
So here we are, and we are here to talk about A Natural History of Dragons, a memoir of Lady Trent by Marie Brennan, the author, writing as Lady Trent.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nowhere in the book is she referred to as Lady Trent, but that's fine. That's not weird. That's not weird or confusing. So let's jump right in. Usually we just do what are our general overarching thoughts of this book, and because I have been reading Discord, Dan, we'll start with you.
Yeah. It was an evolution. I loved it for a while. I liked it for a while after that. And then I grew pretty bored and was kind of ready for it to end. And I ended satisfied, but with doubts about whether I'll continue. So I'm eager to hear from those who have.
Well, I can't wait to unpack that.
Yeah.
Let's unpack that over the course of this special hour. Kira, what are your thoughts?
Katie Doll finished book 6 today.
Whoa, okay. That's jumping ahead. No spoilers.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty fun. It picked up for me more, so I had the opposite reaction to Dan near the end of the book. Little extreme at the end, a little tad dramatic, but yeah, I think I picked up the second book from the library, so I'm going to continue it.
Nice.
Christy, I think you have thoughts, don't you?
Yeah. I really enjoyed this book. So I love fantasy, but dragon books are so hit and miss that I've kind of learned to avoid them a little bit. But I was so pleasantly surprised with this book. I thought the historical aspect, or the time frame that it's set in, was done really, really well. Like if you watch Bridgerton or anything, they did it really well. Someone mentioned Pride and Prejudice and Dragons, and I accidentally read this book in 3 days. I had no intention of doing that. It just happened.
Whoops.
Yeah. And so like I was into it and I'm excited to read the next ones. And I think I'm going to really enjoy the whole series.
All right. So I want to say that my feelings lie more with Dan. I was really into it. I was like, oh, this is fun. I like this. And I think there was because I was getting to know the character. Like I think she had a lot of personality, the way she was telling her story, especially younger, and like her interest in dragons, kind of the origin story of all that. I was like, this is captivating. I can't wait to get into this. And then as we got into it, I feel like for me, it started to meander a little bit. It started to kind of like, I was sort of waiting for like, what is going to happen? And then it did pick up. It definitely became, as we got toward the end, tighter and a little bit more action packed. I think Jeff, I put that on the screen. I was expecting some dragon adventures in this novel. My expectations were not met. I kind of feel the same way. And that I guess it wasn't necessarily what I expected. Not that I thought it was bad. I agree. I kind of came away with it like satisfied and like I would read more, but I don't know. But yeah, that's how two little dragons but loved the characterization. I can agree with that. More dragons in a book where dragons is in the title.
A lot of people are saying it was supposed to be like Pride and Prejudice. Where did I miss that?
No, I think they're all saying that it wasn't like Pride and Prejudice because I just said referenced that comment. There's a Pride and Prejudice and Dragons.
Oh, okay.
Is that a book?
No, there's Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
But I think it's just the setting.
Yeah.
That, it's clearly Victorian England, except it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things I was pleasantly surprised about this book was that the romance part of it and like the courtship was very small at the very beginning, and then we jumped right in.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciated that because it kind of felt when it started like, oh, this could easily just be like a love story, which I mean, clearly that's not what this is, but I was just happy how fast that happened.
And it felt very realistic for the times too. So
yeah,
it sure did. And that was, I think I had to come to terms with that sometimes because I was reading it, and because it was so realistic, I would just place it here on Earth in the history, like it was historical fiction almost. And then they would say things like, it was this month, I guess a month that just sort of like a conglomeration of random letters, and we would go to this place, this country. I'm from this country and speak this language. I'm like, oh, this is not. This is completely made up, and the points don't matter. It was like, so like I kept having to remind myself that this was complete fantasy, even though there was so much about it that could have been very historic, like could have been England, could have been.
I think that's my biggest question about the book is why not just set it in Victorian England? And maybe there's reasons. Maybe things become less like our world, and people like Katie know that. I don't know. It was almost exactly a year I was here on screen with you guys talking about Lies of Loch Lamora, and observed how weird it was to me that we had a fantasy world with a bunch of Italians in it. And almost to the day, here we are, and we have all these Russian names and people sitting Shiva and in the tabernacle. And it's why not just set it in our history? I don't know.
Yeah, we planned that, by the way. We as soon as we finished Lies of Loch Lamora, we read this book, and we were like, let's bring Dan back because it's kind of the same thing.
It's really gonna mess up.
So yeah,
let's drive him up a wall.
She high-fived me, everybody. It never happens. What were we talking about?
Why it wasn't set in just our time or our world.
Just Earth.
Yeah. And it could have been, and it kind of would have been nice because the names of the cities and languages were very foreign, and it would have fixed that.
I didn't know how to pronounce anything in this book.
Me either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Isabella, I've got everything else. I have no.
Jacob. Know
Okay,
that.
let's get on Jacob. Yeah, I think
That
it
is
was
middle name. Yeah, and then yeah, my brain would, as I'm reading this, it would go over these words and just like blank. It would just be like, we journeyed to.
right.
Here, Katie has a.
The author has a background in anthropology, so I think maybe she want to make her. Well, she did, but she made it very much like ours, which is fine.
Well, maybe it's just like an alternate reality where all the names are changed.
Do we pronounce things of any of this and everything just boom, 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 boom?
That's what my brain does. It doesn't pronounce anything.
Yeah, it's like we journeyed to boom, 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 boom.
I like to picture that Ashley was sitting there really thinking about which letters, that she didn't just randomly, like she really thought that out.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, well, we'll get to the ending. Let's talk about the story. Let's talk about, like, Dan, where was it that started to lose you along the way? Like, what were you into, and like where did we get to that made you think?
I think when it got to be too much about one thing, and it was very much, here's this weird stuff going on and why, and it read a lot more like a mystery to me than a historical fantasy. And just, I'm one who I like a lot of exploration and learning a world, and I'd be fine if it meandered for 500 pages of her learning about different dragons and meeting different people who were also of that interest, and I would have been fine if the conversations are cool and the things she's learning are interesting. But once it like kind of got entrenched in this, here's this urban legend going on, and here's these locals who don't like us, and why is all this happening, and it just become a big whodunit. So come on, let's get to something different. And that was like half the book, I felt like.
Yeah. I guess same to me. For me, my sentences. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, I think for me, the whodunit. I don't know. I guess it felt like we were just going to get a series of different stories. We were going to get this sort of memoir where, like, and this time I did this, and then we were going to go to a new part. It was going to be about a different, like, expedition or a different journey or something like that. And then I realized it was all going to be about the same journey. And then it became more about these smugglers, and the smugglers were like, figure out how to stop the dragons from attacking us. And I was like, okay, that's cool. This is kind of cool. Like, we've got a mission. We're going to need to use science to figure this out. But then it just became like this, like, I don't know, the politics of it all, and like them, the whodunit aspect of it. Didn't like necessarily turn me off, but it wasn't really what I thought I was signing up for, if that makes sense.
It was a pivot. Did we ever see smugglers again? Like, did they even?
The main smuggler started with a C or something like that.
I don't have him.
You didn't have that guy down. But yeah, we never saw them again.
Yeah.
So that didn't really ever pay off.
No.
Which now that I think about it, the smugglers wanted them to figure out why the dragons were attacking and to get them to stop attacking. Yes, but then, like, did that matter? Does that matter still if, like, the reason that the dragons are attacking is because of the fact that they are stealing dragon bones? They're killing dragons and stealing dragon bones. The smugglers part of that?
The
So
smugglers didn't know, though. Like,
they didn't know.
That's why the dragons were attacking. It was pretty much, I think the main character figured it out after a little bit of study, and then the main two people, the villains who were doing the experiments, I think they kind of guessed at it.
But they didn't care. She told Rossi, who was like, whatever.
Yeah.
We'll kill them
They weren't the
all.
ones who were dying. There's definitely that.
So like we never really paid
Classism.
off. So we never paid off with the smugglers.
No.
Like, hey, we figured it out. And the smugglers were like, wait a minute. This operation is because why we're doing it? Like, it would have been a nice, like, let's all kill the boyar. Boyar?
So that's what my brain said.
Boy,
And this is, I think, where obviously most of us don't want spoilers, but I would like to know if some of this merges into book 2 and if some of that pays off, or if we get, is it going to be another similar story where it's another, solve what's going on, and then we just get that through however many 5-6 books, or is this one little slice really a good payoff when we look at the whole picture of the whole series? That's kind of what I would like to know.
Yeah. I kind of feel like they're all going to be individual stories in different locations, because she also mentioned that she never went anywhere cold again.
And she also alluded to the fact that the war over iron and its replacement was going to blow up at some point. Like she said, I haven't even talked about the blank wars or whatever. It's like, okay. Spoiler alert. Which yeah. So
I changed the subject a little bit. I loved like the fact that this was a memoir. Like this is Lady Trent's memoir and how it was written, and that it's clearly like a much, much, much older and experienced woman than who the story is actually about. Like she's 19 in the book, but like her voice is what, like 60s or 70s? I don't know.
90s, 100s.
I don't know. I thought that was so cool. And like it was done really well. And just the fact that like you can already tell just with the, like the difference between the two, how much growth she does get.
Well, that was one of the things that really drew me to this book was her narration, her characterization.
Yeah. Like put Alex's on there.
Which one? This one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Roasting young dumb Isabella's first books and decisions. Like, and then she would like, because she would interject things, like she talked about the time that she and Jacob had sex, and she was like, oh, come on, people. Like it's a thing that we do. Like I really like that.
Yeah.
And she just, being the person that she is in the time that she's in. Hello, cat. And you have cats and you don't even know that they yawn that often?
I'm apparently just not perceptive, because I was quickly corrected that they yawn all the time.
Were you talking about that before we went live?
It was before.
I don't even know what we're talking
Even
about.
Kira, I don't think knows what you're talking about.
Anyway. But yeah, she was, she had a very clear personality that was coming through, and you could like just the way that she is and the time that she's in, and kind of the going sort of against society because she loved dragons and she wanted to study dragons. Like that whole thing was great.
Good jokes up there. This one right here. I was wondering about this. Like, I love how like scientific she was. I love how she was learning and teaching herself, especially just as like a young girl, basically, or young woman. But I was thinking, like, if that was like here, we would be very worried about that person.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, they basically just be labeled as a psychopath.
Really look at my dragon collection. Well, I mean, what would be the equivalent of like, look at my
It's bugs. So
squirrels.
They were wondering if they were even dragons. So they thought might be insects. So like I think the equivalent might be like dragonflies or butterflies or something.
Yeah, people do the pin boards and stuff with those.
Yeah. But also, like, did y'all see her sketch of the, what are they called? Sparklings?
Sparklings.
They're
That's one that's actual size, right?
clearly dragons.
That's
There's
no insect.
nothing insect about that.
No, because that's the one that says actual size, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, when you're starting a book about dragons, you think, oh, that's cute. It's so tiny. It's a little dragon. But now, yeah, in light of we think these are insects, that's not so small. I don't want that flying by me when I'm eating a picnic outside.
Yeah.
I've seen a dragonfly that big.
I see you saw a dragon.
Dragon.
Dragonfly. So
Um,
again, that might be part of her reason for not basing it on Earth, so that there's still a little bit more of that fantastical aspect to it, where it could be believed that dragons are pests.
yeah.
Everything
Would
is-
you
Except the names, except like the places. That's
Yeah.
that's the thing.
would you say that's the equivalent of saying like, let me show you 3,000 dog pictures on our first date of dogs that maybe you don't own. They're just dog pictures.
He did do that.
They're in your shed.
We were in public.
Pictures are the same thing as like your collection of, like, again, like Jeff said, the 300 cicadas.
Cicadas.
Never know how to pronounce that.
You just read it. You've just read that word.
Yeah.
So yeah, she has a very unique history, and Jacob, I think that made Jacob more endearing, is that like he liked it.
He couldn't
was
be
into it.
more endearing. Jacob was just the nicest, sweetest person that couldn't possibly exist in this world or time.
Chrissy's jealous.
Because he dies.
And he dies, which was so sad. I
I
hated
thought he was
that.
going to at least make it past the first book. I was
Yeah.
really hoping for that. Like,
Uh,
obviously,
you
there's a
take it
name
away.
change at some point. She becomes a
keep
lady
calling
at some
it-
point.
The Lady Trent Chronicles, or memoirs, or whatever it is, if she goes multiple books without being Lady Trent.
Right.
And we know that Lord Trent, I mean, we don't know.
Probably.
I thought he would survive in the book
I'm
too.
assuming he has to be a jerk. He can't be another Jacob. So
No, there can be no more Jacob. There can be no other Jacob. Chrissy's jealous of Jacob.
He is just so supportive of her, even though like what she wants is crazy for her time. And I think it was just so lovely. I really enjoyed reading about their relationship. But no, I did not catch on that his name wasn't Trent and that he couldn't possibly last.
I
So
did.
kudos to everybody else who did.
well, she said it at one point in the narration. She said, "I wasn't yet Lady Trent."
Yes.
I think that was after they were married. I'm pretty sure. I think that's what drew my attention to it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Same.
he's dead.
But Jacob, she meets Jacob at the menagerie.
With
King's
the dwarf
menagerie.
albino dragon.
And she's like, I want to be friends with this guy. But we all know what happened. And then who was it? Lord Hilford? Hilford?
Oh, and her dad that like gave her a
Oh.
list of eligible bachelors that all owned her favorite book. He was so sweet too.
It's like, that's a good dad.
That's such a good dad. It's
Good
like,
dad. Good Jacob.
Someone talked in Discord, and I don't remember who it was. Someone made the observation that how, let's just say this is Victorian England, okay, because it clearly is, and how this wasn't about a 21st century character in that situation trying to make a big statement about feminism and I will not adhere to your labels. It was, she did her own thing. She marched to her own drummer, but was still falling in line to the expectations of the society as well. And I like that too, because nothing takes me out of immersion more than this whole book is a vehicle to make a statement, and then this didn't do that for the most part.
Yeah, I think it was nice and organic, if that's the word to use. And I thought she was just cool, and it was cool to see not only Jacob, not only her dad, but Lord Hilford also take a liking to her, and even eventually Mr. Wilkins.
Wilker, maybe?
Wilker
Wilker or Wilkin or
Wilker.
Wilkie.
Did you write him down?
no.
You didn't write him down?
Will. We knew how to pronounce his name. We don't remember it, but we knew how to pronounce that one.
Which character is he?
Mr. Wilker is like Lord Hilford's.
Oh, his
Yeah.
little secretary that they kind of have a rivalry.
Yeah, Wilker. Because they have a rivalry, and Wilker like protested her being there.
Mhm.
His first name is Tom. Tom Wilker. What a very non-fantasy name. Tom. Like
The Tom is actually, it's not that not
it's-
fantasy.
it's Tom.
Bombadil. Lord of the Rings.
But I feel like there should be like 2 H's in there. THOMH.
With an
Tom.
apostrophe, right?
Yeah.
T''HO.
So one
Tom.
of the things I didn't love was at the beginning of every chapter, there's like these little short lines about like what's going to happen in the chapter.
I skipped
And
them.
Yeah.
I listened to the audiobook for at least half of this book, so I couldn't skip it. And I really wish I hadn't had like those spoilers in the front of every chapter.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I couldn't help but read it.
Yeah.
But I really wish that I didn't. Because then I kind of knew what to expect a little bit. Though there were some of them that were vague enough that kind of caught my attention and was like, oh, well, what's going to happen with that? But I don't think they really added much.
Yeah, I would read them and then I would look down because I read it on a Kindle and I would look down at the bottom left corner. I would say, okay, this is gonna happen. And then I would see 12 minutes in chapter and I'd be like, there's no time for any of this.
Mhm.
How are
I
we
think
gonna
it would be more useful with longer chapters. Like
Mhm.
it was just this was too short a book for that kind of.
Yeah, it was distracting that the pages were labeled with spoilers. I agree with you there. It didn't add anything. To me, it's like Battlestar Galactica. Check. If you've ever watched Battlestar Galactica, at the end of the opening title
Version,
sequence,
Adam.
the 2003 or 2002, the
Okay.
reimagining with
Yes.
Edward James Olmos. At the end of the opening titles, there is this like montage to drums that show you clips from the episode that you're about to watch. It's like just quick little short things, but I'm like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this.
Mhm.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see any. I don't want to. That's what this was to me, and I didn't like it.
Jeff was saying that he wished that we had more character development for Lord Hilford, and I agree. I really liked his character too. I thought he was interesting.
He was.
And it sounded like he had quite a few adventures of his own. And the fact that he was comfortable enough.
What is happening?
Sorry, that's. I'm pet sitting this dog. Rufus, say hi. So,
Sorry.
yeah, he was running into the lights behind me because he wanted to go outside. I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Lord Hilford.
Yeah, he just seemed like a nice character, and appreciated his support of her. And I think part of that came from his granddaughters, nieces, also being a little more on the unconventional side.
Yeah.
Because it was one of his family members who kind of brought Lady Trent over to meet him in the first place.
Yeah.
Remember early on when we first met him, or the first few scenes with him, unless I'm confusing this with one of the other books I'm currently reading, I thought it was this, when she's having conversations with him and she would say something and he would give that dismissive wave, which I totally pictured my grandma always doing, or I always saw my grandma do. I pictured that. That was him, right? And it said like that was part of his mannerism, was always just waving off stuff that he didn't agree with.
I think so, yeah.
So
I think that was but see, you don't remember because like that went away. And if that's like a trait like that should have kept coming back. I think some of that just those nuances of character is what kind of got lost when it became plot based and mystery based. We'd lost some of those cute little touches that made the characters who they were.
I agree with that. Now that you mention it, like it wasn't like a thought that really occurred to me consciously, but now that you say that, I'm like, yeah, it did kind of become more plot centric and less about the character and her growth as a scholar of dragons. And I guess ultimately she did discover this revelation about dragon and their burial rites, and that was, I guess, a major scientific discovery, not to mention
Is
What's
that
that?
something that actually happens in nature? Because that seems, I know it's a fantasy book, but that seemed like just a little too far-fetched for me.
The dragons, they bury their own.
They're talking about the elephant graveyards.
Mhm.
I meant to Google if that was actually a thing, but
Did anybody
because
Google
I've
elephant
heard the
graveyard?
term elephant graveyards, but I don't really know what that means.
I think I just assumed it must be a real thing people believe in because everything else was lifted out of our own world.
Yeah.
Elephants have
Dragons are-
graveyards.
Elephants have graveyards, apparently.
Okay. So I guess it's something that does actually happen in nature. I don't know. It just sounded so bizarre.
It did. It did.
Well, and like she even mentioned that if they do have a graveyard and like mourn their dead, then that's going to kind of change how people are with dragons because then
Mhm.
you can't really justify killing them because they're not at the same level as like regular animals. So I'm actually interested to see if that happens in the next several books. Like if we see her approach to studying dragons change, because she killed like 300 starlings, and then they shot that one dragon that she took like the really awesome sketch of.
Then it got stolen
Mhm.
by a dragon, right?
Yeah, they actually cut
Yeah.
it up more so that it could carry all the pieces to the graveyard.
Yeah, I guess that's where it was taken.
Yeah.
And we found that out later. She was like, "Oh, this is the one that we did." Google says elephant graveyards are probably a myth, but bones do end up in the same place due to natural causes, and elephants do mourn their dead.
Hmm.
So
See, I know that there are some animals that mourn their dead. It was just the graveyard part. I don't know why I'm so hung up on
Headstones.
that.
They bring flowers and they
headstones, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why that part is what I'm getting hung up on, but
and I did remember it from Lion King.
yes, but that's a cartoon
I didn't,
movie.
exactly.
guys.
I did not take. I was like, well, they referenced it in Lion King, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, isn't Anastasia just an exact retelling of what happened? Sure, right?
Darn precise.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Nothing bad happened.
Well, and maybe it felt so fantastical to you. Kira, you mentioned on Discord that the natural historian approach the author takes with dragons, that they're not fantastic beasts, they're more pest-like to a lot of people.
Mhm.
And I thought that was such a great comment because that is kind of a totally different take on dragons than you normally see in fantasy.
Yeah, they're more annoyances that disturb everyday life versus something that's incredible and amazing and magical to see.
Yeah. And
So-
even though they're like incredible and magical for Isabella, they're not for like anyone who has to live near them.
I think for me it was disappoint. I was disappointed just because of what I mean, I haven't read a lot of fantasy, so like my opinion of dragons and the myth of dragons is that they are like kind of these mythical, like powerful, mysterious, intelligent creatures. And like here, I guess they're so prevalent and so that not only are they just kind of like, oh, there's a dragon, but also they're easy to kill, which is I did not expect that. Are dragons easy to kill in other books?
No, not usually.
I can't think of any that I've read where they are.
Because here it's like we got a couple of guns and we're like pop pop pop. But I guess not a lot of fantasy books have guns, but they
That's
have
true.
magic, which is like better than guns, right?
Have you seen a gun?
Have I seen a gun?
The other
Like,
case is
those are-
the guy with a gun. So it's not just me.
I mean, I guess if you brought guns to Hogwarts, it'd be a different thing. But like,
Yes.
but I don't know. But like, it's just like they had rifles, and they were just like, "Here comes a dragon, pop pop," and then the dragon's done. I was like, "That's it."
I mean, but if you go in knowing that dragons are just another animal, like it's just another thing.
It's like taking down a lion or, some other big cat that's coming after you. Like it's probably gonna take a few shots. It's still really dangerous. You could still die from it, but like you can ultimately still take it down if you need to.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know. Like I was hoping maybe I was just hoping the dragons in this book would have that level of like mysticism and awe to them. Like she was awed by them just because she's obsessed with them.
I mean, I liked the different take.
Yeah, I did too.
I thought it was interesting that it was more like that they weren't that magical. It's just another creature out there that humans had to deal with.
Yeah, it's really no different than if she, had been obsessed with any other kind of animal, like people who love dogs or horses or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, substitute whatever animal if you want, and really that almost makes the fact that in that sense, it's the whole book is grounded in reality. That this whole twist, this whole part of the plot about this mythical monster, that are we really supposed to believe that for a while? That suddenly it becomes a lot more supernatural than this whole book actually is. Because really, yes, this substitute lions for dragons, and really the book's pretty realistic.
Yeah. So that's natural history. But also, I wanted to know more about the dragons. Like I was hoping we would learn about dragons as she learned about dragons, not just about like their practices, but like, the first time they see a dragon, it's like blowing ice on them. It's like blowing ice and stuff like that. And I guess they were really kind of dealing with just one breed of dragons the whole time, like the rock worms or whatever. But I wanted to see more of like the very, I guess, in action. Like she's just read about these from this book, and I wanted to see more of like that in action.
Well, the series is going to be following her education and figuring that out because
Now I gotta read more books.
Oh, my bad. I thought we were in a book club.
Yeah, I guess we are. I guess we're in a book club.
Zing.
It could have been. Yeah, I mean, she was just 19 at the time, so she was like on her first expedition. The only research that she'd really done was in the backyard of her shed and just studying and doing those drawings as much as possible. So she had like a few ideas here and there, but I think she was still ultimately learning how to research and discover more about these dragons, learning from people who have been on those scientific expeditions before.
Well, I'm hoping that we did get the tease at the end that Lord Hilford is like, well, we've got another expedition coming up and you're going to go on it.
But when you tell me he's not on it, that is not a selling point for me.
He isn't. Yeah, he said he's not on it, right?
Yeah. Well, he says that. Who knows?
Yeah, he did.
Katie knows.
Someone was saying his granddaughter might feature strongly in book 2, and
that's what I hear.
I liked her, so I'm okay with his sassy granddaughter also joining.
Yeah.
I don't remember his granddaughter in the book.
She wasn't the one that well,
she introduced her to him.
Yeah, but
I don't remember
that wasn't the friend that she had when she was a child. That
no,
okay.
Not Manda.
It was someone she had in society life, and
the granddaughter was, I think, was it Isabella? I think she was so concerned at the menagerie.
The menagerie.
About doing the wrong thing or not seeming too excited about it. And then the granddaughter was just like, oh, what do you think about this? And was more excitable. And she was thinking, oh, there's someone else who's not trying to hide that she's interested in this stuff.
I don't know why.
It was just a brief glimpse, but it was enough for me to be like, okay, yeah, she's different and they get along. And she seems quirky as well. And she'll be as sassy as her grandfather. So I think it would be fun.
Huh. I just don't remember her at all from this book.
I mean, she was only in
it was
a
brief.
few pages.
Mm-hmm. They met, she introduced her to the grandfather, and I don't think we ever saw her again.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Natalie.
then she had to worm Jacob into the expedition after that, right? She should be like, Jacob, this is thing. You must go.
Well, she got them to talk via letters and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I will say that moment where Isabella told Jacob to take her with him and why she would just be super unhappy if he didn't was a great cathartic moment for me, because it was the first time that I feel like she was truly like expressing herself in this time period of like repression. Like she unloaded. She like came clean. She was like, I will be unhappy if I have to go have tea with these people that I don't talk about things I don't even want to talk about. Like, I will wither away and die. Please take me with you. This is what I want. This is what I live for. And Jacob was like, you got it. I was like, this is a great, very well written moment. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. And then they went. And I was like, oh.
It was very sweet too, because he's like, well, how I would be a poor husband if I left my wife to be miserable. He's like, oh, what a good guy.
And what do I care more about? I like what you said. What all these other people think, or how you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I agree that part was really well written.
Yeah, and it was a nice catharsis too, because the whole time up until then she was like going along with the repression and having to like, you know, tiptoe around, you know, even with her dad, and even with that she had that with the wolf dragon thing incident that forced her to go into the gray zone or whatever it was. I'm butchering this.
Oh yeah. Whatever first attacked her when she snuck out on the hunt.
The hunt, and then she went into the gray period or something like that.
Right. She was like bedbound or housebound.
Well, for like 2 weeks, but then she determined that she wasn't going to cause her family more trouble, and was like, okay, well, I'll focus on horses, I guess.
I'll be a horse girl. Which
who
was it? Alex that said that.
She loved that.
Yeah.
Horses don't fly.
Horses don't fly. They don't have wings. And I like that she had this metaphorical dragon inside of her that would like spring to life. So let's skip ahead. Let's talk about like, you know, now they're on this expedition, and they get attacked by the dragons. They're staying in this town that doesn't like them. They're staying in this house of this man who they never meet, who is probably already dead.
Yeah, I think they confirmed he was dead at some point.
They did.
And then they start doing their thing, and she stumbles upon the smugglers because one of them is having an affair with one of the townspeople, right?
And she stumbled upon their lair too.
Well, it was the affair part first, where she followed him out of the village and then ended up getting captured because, of course. And then later, when the village person took her to the ruins, then she stumbled upon the smuggler's lair.
The cache of things. So I said this to Christy, because like up until I guess maybe like 3/4 of the way through the book, Isabella to me was like the Lucy Ricardo of like dragon scholars. Like,
yeah,
you know, it was part like of the time period, but also part her actions, because she was always like, you know, if Jacob is Ricky, she's like, I want to be in your play, and like, I don't know, Lucy, I don't know if you can be in this. Oh, come on, Ricky. And then finally they let her do it, and she like trips over something, and like, you know, or you know, something happens and she like breaks her leg, or you know, something like, and she's like, oh, Lucy. She's like, Ricky, I'll try again.
That's a really good observation. Yeah, I didn't think about it that way, but it really is.
So that's,
we talk about how funny her relationship was with her little house girl.
Dagmyra,
right? Like, I really want her thoughts about, like, she's clearly just thinly tolerating her.
Yeah.
And to me, it was really well written. How funny that was, that dynamic.
Yeah, like Alex was saying that as a protagonist, she was allowed to be flawed and a pretentious know-it-all. And yeah, I did like that she had those moments too. And I think it was Ashley who was earlier saying like she had those moments where she was also looking down on some of the people in the other places, or doing the classism bit. which made me uncomfortable too. But she owned up to that later and was like, I was ashamed of the way that I did this. And like, again, it showed growth as a character.
Yeah, the I'm not even going to try to say it. Vystranians.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just knows. Just
Distrinev.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, exactly.
So they were staying in Drustrinev, right?
Which is in Vistrana.
Which
Yeah.
is in Vistrana.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
It's in the former Soviet Union, but go ahead.
Yes, USSR. Yeah. And then there was this bit about what was it? Zagrit Matt.
Yeah.
Zagrit Matt, the urban legend.
Oh yeah, I have the
That's a little
legend
weird.
written out.
That was weird, wasn't it? That was
I think that was the part I liked least about the book, outside of the end with the smugglers and how, I don't know, it all kind of exploded. Yeah, I just feel like that wasn't really necessary.
It didn't fit.
Yeah.
well, it was Astromir doing it on the orders of the boyar
Yeah.
because he was trying to make them leave because of this urban legend of this half man, half dragon, which to me was like a throwback to the Magician's Daughter with that one character who tried to do the Ravenstone and then like turned into like half man, half bird. And I was like, that's what this is.
I mean, yeah, he transformed badly, basically, and then it made him go mad, which is very similar.
Yeah, I think I was more disappointed with the payoff of that than I was like that incident itself, because I think it was a cool premise, and I think that there could have been maybe a cool scientific explanation for it. As science kind of trumps superstition.
I think I would have been more okay with the lore and that myth tying into why they were in that specific area to begin with, other than just getting permission. And like when they arrived at the temple, then hearing more about it. It just kind of felt like it was thrown in randomly when they were in the village. Yeah, like
Well,
Dan
her
said,
feeling
just
like
think
she
it
had
fit.
to take the Firestone back because she was actually believing in this. Like, real, like that took me out for a moment. I'm like, really? Is this character I've been with for like 200 plus pages really believing that she's creating this, making this happen? I didn't buy that.
Did she take it back because she thought about the Zagreet Mott, or was it because she thought maybe the dragons were upset that she took it?
I'm not
That
sure.
was the first one.
I think it was the first one too. I think she was actually like buying into she was like, can be the only reason why this thing is stalking us is because I took
That's how I read it.
out
Yeah.
of the cave, and now I must put it back. And she was almost there. She and Dagmyra were going to do that, right? And then they saw the smugglers like packing up and stuff.
And she said, heck no, I'm not getting rid of my Firestone.
Yeah, not for this. Cindy thought it was the second one. So it was more about like,
I feel like I thought it was more the second one, but
this is why the dragons were attacking. But I don't know if we had enough information
Well,
to connect the dragons to the Firestone.
she said that she started buying into the superstition. Like she was starting to second guess herself. And so that's why I was thinking it was the first reason was because she thought that she had done something to actually bring around this Zagrat, whatever.
Zagrit
Mott.
Yeah. So I think that's why I was more inclined to think it was the first option.
Well, she's narrating and she never told us otherwise. Like she said, this must be it. A 60-something Lady Trent would have chimed in and said, well, you silly young ninny. Of course you didn't do that. But she didn't. She didn't correct us.
Yes, she laid out that information very intentionally.
Where does anybody know where the Firestone came from or how it's created? Because I feel like I missed that if they said it.
There's a mine there.
I don't-
Okay, so it's not dragon related.
I don't
No.
think so.
That-
Okay.
It's just naturally
Ball.
occurring. And the smuggler, or either the smugglers or the boyar, figured out where it was, and that's how they were funding their research, was by illegally mining this resource and then selling it, smuggling it over the borders and selling it.
Yeah, so then we get to they all of a sudden they're invited to the Boyars Lodge or whatever that was. And then
That was weird.
and then it becomes Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm gonna whine and he's a James Bond villain, is what he is.
Yeah.
He's like, like they finally invite him, the protagonist, to the lair, and you discover, because it's James Bond, that like, oh no, they've figured out a way to preserve dragon bones so that they can get rich. And then the henchman comes in and is like, we can use it to replace iron and sell it to the highest bidder. Mwahaha, who cares if the casualty is that all dragons will cease to exist? Very James Bond villain.
There was mustache twirling going on there for sure.
100%.
I like when they're sitting at the lodge, when they're told at the lodge that they've been invited as guests of honor for this big feast, and they're halfway through this little pitiful meal and told, oh, by the way, this isn't the feast. That's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Feast is tomorrow. Yeah. But only James Bond villains invites their rival to dinner. Like,
Yeah. That I think that was the part where it lost me a bit, was that whole section.
It was
And
so
then they-
late in the book to have a pivot like that. Like, I'm looking at how little book is left. I'm like, they just took the plot in a whole new direction. There isn't time to go on a detour. This side quest, clearly.
and then
is-
they escape. They escape and they're running away, and
Well, they run away after
Jacob gets stabbed. Just because Jacob was investigating, the noises, and Rossi was about to kill Isabella with the knife.
Mhm.
Isabella and Dagmyra smashes him over the head with a beaker of not sulfuric acid, unfortunately. And then they escape, and they're chased by the Boyars people, and then somehow a fire. There was a fire.
Started a fire?
Who started the
As a
fire?
distraction, maybe. But then they also someone went back. Wilker went back to make sure that the
They need to make sure that the
staff
people got out.
don't die.
I
I don't know how the fire started.
don't know how the fire started.
I
How
think
did
it
the
was
fire
just
start?
chemicals that were spilled, wasn't it?
Probably.
Maybe.
Then a torch was dropped or something. I don't know.
My
Remember.
mind was wandering a little bit by this point in the book. I would read a page. I'd be like, oh crap.
Of course, Ryan
It's
started the
camera
fire.
Wednesday, and I don't really know what just happened. Keep moving forward.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat too, because I was kind of plowing through this yesterday, but then they escape, and somehow Isabella and Wilker get separated from Lord Hilford, and they end up going to. They were like, we're going to hide out the ruins, and they go and they find the mine, and they put all the pieces together, and then the Boyars men are there, and they're like, we're going to kill you now, but no, there's a dragon coming, right? And then Isabella's like, I burned your books, and then ran away.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
She just starts running. I was surprised she wasn't shot. She just starts running.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's
they're
like-
all stormtroopers at that point. Everyone missed.
She's
Very much
doing
so.
serpentine. She's zigging and zagging. She's hiding behind trees. Pew, 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 pew. They all miss, but the gunshots is what attracts the dragon.
But she ran so that they would shoot at her.
Exactly.
To attract the dragon.
Yeah, she was trying to.
Because they'd already established that.
She was trying to attract the dragon, because the dragon comes in and swoops in and it kills the boyar, but Rossi's still alive, and somehow Isabella's climbing a wall now. I don't know what this wall is, but she's climbing to the top of the wall, and Rossi's chasing her like American gladiators. And Rossi almost gets her with his knife, but then another dragon, because they killed the first dragon, another dragon comes and plucks Rossi away from Isabella, saving the day.
You should have just been the narrator for the audiobook, Adam.
Right.
I don't know how to pronounce the names.
So we have all this action at the end of the book. And what I say is a little bit of a Deus Ex Machina with I will give Isabella the benefit of the plan of running away, shooting, attracts the dragons. This is all set up very fine, good. No Deus Ex Machina here. The second dragon, though, total Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, the dragon on the wall.
What?
The dragon on the wall.
The dragon on the wall. Total Deus Ex Machina. I was like, come on.
For those of us who don't understand what you're talking about,
Oh
please
yeah,
clarify.
Deus Ex Machina is like a cop out plot device that's like basically like Saved by the Hand of God or like something like that.
Oh yeah,
that's
It's
like
planted into the narrative as something that exists specifically to get out of a situation or to solve.
But it's not a great payoff. It's like we've been working so hard the entire book to pay off our taxes, and we've been, like all we need to do is pay off our taxes, and then we're good. We're out of debt and all this stuff. And then like you find a lottery ticket.
So it's the convenient plot device.
Like, oh look, yeah.
Many or most stories do it. It's just how well do they hide it?
Yeah. This one was very obvious, and even she was like, "I don't know why the dragon avoided me."
Yeah, but it did.
You should have died.
Yeah, avoided all the good guys, got all the bad guys.
Uh-huh.
Lord Hilford, who is old, managed to survive this dragon attack, and then that dragon was brought down by a bunch of bad men. Badmen.
The plural of Batman. Badman
Badman
becomes one word.
And then the end, we wrap up the expedition. We go home with we were keeping it secret, keeping it safe with the book.
I like the conversation, the dialogue between her and Wilker.
Yes,
there
me
at the
too.
end. After all their silly pettiness, they have this understanding moving forward. I don't remember what they talked about, but I remember that I liked the dialogue.
It was about like saving. Let's be very careful with this knowledge because it could get into the wrong hands,
right?
And that sort of thing. And so it's like let's guard it with our lives. Let's.
Yeah, I would not have been able to think that far ahead with that type of research. So
that's true.
It was the scientific aspect of them coming out, I guess.
Good on them.
What are the consequences of this research?
And I think they brought in a very specific chemist or something like that they could trust that was going to like help them sort of reverse engineer it in a way that didn't have to sacrifice dragons. Like we can rebuild it or whatever. But yeah, and I will say that I did enjoy, if you read the book, I did enjoy like seeing the drawings in here. And while Jacob's death sucked and it hit me hard, the part that hit me the hardest was seeing his picture.
Yeah.
Like Jacob died, and then you're reading, and then it's just like all the drawings you see of this are like dragon related, and then we get.
So I like that one.
Is that the Zagrit?
Yeah.
He had
look at that facial expression.
He has hands on the ends of his wings.
He's angry.
He has the skin of a human.
Yeah, but like seeing this was just like, oh.
Yeah.
She only draws things.
They really depicted him perfectly. I mean, he looks like a guy you'd want to hang out with.
Yeah.
Well, look at it. But we are at the hour mark, which time flies when you're having fun. Flies like a dragon.
Is it time for the November book poll?
No.
Yeah, you'll get that in 3 weeks, whenever we do our club meeting.
We do the club meeting. But I guess sum it up now that we've had this book discussion. Have we changed anybody's minds? Is anybody going to read on? Are y'all going to read on? Kira is.
would
I already have
like
the second book.
on.
So.
Yeah, and
I'm on
still
the fence.
Still on the fence.
I
think
need,
that's-
I need some info from people. Like, I just want to know not everything that happens, but like, does it feel more like exploratory, historical, science, fantasy stuff? Or is it more, here's the problem, let's solve it. Next book, here's the problem, let's solve it. That's what I want to know. And that'll help me decide.
a lot of people say, I'm already halfway through the second one, and I'm going to read on, and I will read on. I'm going to finish the series.
What about you?
I'm on the fence as well. I think I could venture into this world again, especially if I know from people who have read on that it does get better.
Brandy just wants Cliff Notes.
I mean, they're not long books. It's not like when you read book one and it's 700 pages long.
This one felt long.
Longer.
What?
The second half felt long.
Yeah. This felt long.
Katie said the next two are definitely more sciencey.
Nice.
Okay. That helps.
Well, awesome.
So, speaking about the club meeting, we are going to do it in 3 weeks, not in 2 weeks. So, we'll have the club meeting on Wednesday, the 18th, and then we'll follow that the next week with the live discussion on Wednesday, the 25th.
Yeah, various scheduling things. Just doing it a little differently.
Yeah, it'll be on the banner and everything.
Still,
You'll
just
see
see.
it.
But next month, we are reading Snow Crash, which if you've been in the lounge or in Discord, it feels like a trap that set for us.
It is like
Is there-
500 pages long, so
It is.
it's short for a Stevenson, but it's not a short book for a lit wasted club selection. So
Definitely a chunky book.
if you
Oh,
haven't
we're gonna-
started,
Yeah,
start
make
tomorrow.
sure to give yourself enough time.
Now, see, we have Jeff here he's in the comments. Everybody meet Jeff. And Jeff was like, Snow Crash, Snow Crash, Snow Crash. And then we picked Snow Crash. He's like, you're going to hate it.
And he did the same thing with Dune.
So, Jeff, just for you, I'm going to hate it. I'm not. I mean, maybe
No,
I
you
will.
don't know.
We'll see.
You
We'll
haven't
see.
started.
We'll see what happens. But because it's been such a lively discussion about Snow Crash, I'm excited to finally read this. Has been in our poll, 2 times already?
Yeah, this was the third time it's been on.
Third time in the poll. So we finally made it through. And it's going to happen. This is September's book, so you might want to start now.
And we already have October's book picked.
Yes, it is.
Ray Bradbury. My favorite.
Yeah, The
Ray-
Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury.
Which is another somewhat
Controversial.
controversial and widely discussed. So Dan, tell us, Dan's like, this is a history of Halloween. Don't read it.
It's short. I'll say that.
It is really
Love
short.
Bradbury.
It's not going to be what you're expecting.
It's not going to be.
Yeah.
If you're looking
Having-
for spooky Halloween chills, it's not it. It's something you could read as a social studies teacher to your class
We'll bring you back.
in curriculum standards. It's a trip to Epcot in 1985. So if
I
that's
love
your
Epcot.
jam, I love Epcot. But
My
not
favorite
everyone-
ride was the big ball. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
What
you
was it
just
called?
angered millions of Disney fans by calling it that.
The big ball. What was the name of the ride?
Spaceship Earth.
Spaceship Earth. Yeah, where you just sit there and you go about half a mile an hour backwards through a bunch of animatronic wonderland. What a time!
Yep. I liked smelling the burning of the Library of Alexandria. There's that nice burning smell as you go by. It's like, ooh, let the ride stall right here. That never happened.
But we'll let everybody decide for themselves. Y'all picked it. Y'all voted for it. We're just gonna read it.
And
It's
it
still
doesn't-
good, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Mhm.
I
Still
love Ray
good.
Bradbury. He's an amazing writer. It's
Yeah,
just,
see?
again, not going to be quite a creepy book like you may have been expecting.
Which is fine.
And regarding Snow Crash, for people, because I always look when I read a book or start a book, I'm interested, when did this come out? What was going on at the time? This book came out in 1992. So a lot of people will read the whole book and be like, when did this come out? Like 2 years ago? So if you read Snow Crash and you think, oh, this is so derivative, this has been done before, he's just ripping off this book and this. No, those were ripping him off. So I love Stevenson. It's not my favorite, but everything you think it's copying those things were copying Snow Crash.
Interesting. Yeah, because I had thought before I kind of looked into it that Snow Crash was a more recent book. So, you know what, we'll bring you back for the Snow Crash discussion, and maybe we'll force Jeff to be on here as well, and anybody else who wants to come. Let's all do it.
He's been
the whole Brady Bunch thing going. Can we get like
we can?
Oh
yeah,
spears?
You can make it. You can get up to like I think 10 people on here. So, all right, everybody. That wraps it up for us for our discussion of A Natural History of Dragons. If you want to be part of the discussion, you want to continue the discussion, there's always the Facebook group, the Literally Wasted Lounge. There's always Discord, which has a very special section for A Natural History of Dragons, which is very lively. Thank you so much, Dan and Kira, for being here. Yay! You'll see them everywhere.
Thanks for having us.
We'll have you back. You can both come back if you want for the next book and the next book. And the next book, and
Jeff's doing the next book. I can do the book after.
We'll get Jeff on here.
True.
Jeff said, "Oh, I will be there." Yeah, you will. But thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you in a few weeks for a club meeting, and then for Snow Crash.
Yeah.
Wahoo! Bye.
Bye.